So, in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, we are in the meeting of Sri Ramakrishna and Vidyasagar. So, this is 5th August 1882. August 1882, and page 101. At the bottom of the page 101, we had already started this. So a lot of heavy duty Vedanta is going to come. But before I go into that, a couple of very touching anecdotes about M. So the source for this is Swami Chaitanananda ji, and many years, in fact decades ago, Swami Chaitanananda ji was visiting an old Swami Dharmeshananda in Kashi, in Benares, where the Swami Dharmeshananda was spending his last days there. And Swami Dharmeshananda had come into close contact with M. So Swami Chaitanananda was eager to get some information, some reminiscences about M directly from Swami Dharmeshananda. So he got it on tape and he transcribed it. It's been published, but just a couple of very touching anecdotes about M. So Swami Dharmeshananda says that when he was a student, he read the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna and he was very impressed. So another gentleman told him that the author M is still alive. Would you like to go and meet him? And of course, the young man, he said, I would like to go and meet him. And so they went to M's house. So the first meeting, M was giving the prasad of Jagannath. So it was close to Ratha Yatra day, which is coming up, in fact, Ratha Yatra. So he was giving the prasad of Jagannath to everybody, and he said, M said to everybody, if a group of people had gathered around, so he said to everybody that Sri Ramakrishna used to take the prasad of Jagannath every day, and M also did that every day. And Sri Ramakrishna used to say that this prasad of Jagannath, Lord Jagannath of Puri, it develops bhakti. It generates bhakti in you, devotion to God, it generates in you. So this is the dried rice prasad, rice grains. Now, he said this, and he said Sri Ramakrishna is to take it every day, would take a little, just one grain of it, and so do I. M said that. And Swami Dharmeshananda says that he was a young man and very rational and all that, and then he said, when he heard that Sri Ramakrishna is to say that this prasad develops bhakti, generates bhakti if you take it. So this young man said, well, if you believe in such things, I guess it will develop bhakti in you. It, like a psychological thing. And he didn't mean any offense by it, but he just said that he was very rationalistic. I mean, how can eating a little bit of rice grain develop bhakti in you? So if you have belief in it, the way most rational people would say, if you believe in it, perhaps it can generate devotion in you. M immediately turned to him and said, no, not in that way. He said that whether you believe in it or not, it will generate bhakti. It said, like if somebody takes poison, whether you know it or not, whether the person knows it or not, it will affect you. Similarly, he says that things have, substances have properties. Substances have properties in them in spite of your, it does not matter what you believe about it, and it will affect you. So he made a point that Sri Ramakrishna did not mean it in a psychological sense, that you take it with devotion and your devotion will keep on increasing, not in that sense. Whether you believe in it or you do not believe in it, if you take it, it will generate devotion in you. That's what Sri Ramakrishna said. But M noted his attitude. So later on, he pointed to Dharmeshananda and he said to the other gathered people who had gathered around him, this young man does not believe in the words of Sri Ramakrishna. So it was to his great embarrassment, but he liked M so much, he started visiting M regularly, and later on he became a monk. So that's one anecdote. And why it struck me so much was, I remembered that when I came to the United States more than 5 years ago, so when I was about to leave Belur Mutt, I went to do pranams, bow down to the senior monks. And so Swami Suhitanandaji, who was the general secretary of the order at that time, I went into his office. I still distinctly remember. I bowed down to him and I said, I'm leaving soon for the United States. So he opened the drawer in his desk and he took out a little packet of Jagannath Prasad and he gave it to me. And he said, keep this and take it. So I think he knew my Vedantic predilections, so it'll generate bhakti in me. And I suddenly remembered after reading this, I still have it. I haven't been taking it, but I had kept it next to Holy Mother's picture. And I found it, the little cloth bundle with the prasad of Jagannath. So I've started taking my daily dose now of Jagannath prasad. So that's one anecdote. The second one is related to what we are going to study today about Vedanta. So Swami Dharmeshanji says after he became close to M, he used to visit M regularly. And I think he had already joined the order as a novice, as he was a brahmachari. So one day he went to M's house and M saw him and said, oh, I was just thinking about you. Come here. He took his hand and said, I want to say something to you. And this young novice said, I'm in a hurry because Swami Vasudevananda is going to give a class on the Upanishad, Chandogya Upanishad, in Mother's house. And I have to be there at 3 p.m. So I really have to leave now. M said, what he said after that is very interesting. So I'll just read it out in this context of what we're going to study now of Vedanta. So I'll read out the Bengali and translate for you. It'll be easier for me. So he said, there's an Upanishad class on Chandogya Upanishad at 3 p.m. and I have to leave now. M said in Bengali, দেখো অধ্যয়ন করে ভগবানের কাছে যাওয়া তো royal path. This path of study of Vedanta and attaining God, going to God, this is the royal path, what you're talking about. তা যুগ যুগ ধরে রয়েছে. It's an ancient path. It has been there for ages. দেখো ঠাকুরকে ধরো. Listen or see here. Hold on to Sri Ramakrishna. Hold on to Thakur. তাকে ধরে ক্লাস করো. You can do your classes, but hold on to Sri Ramakrishna. তাকে ধরে ক্লাস করো. You hold on to Sri Ramakrishna and then continue your classes. তিনি এই সবে এসেছিলেন. He has just come. He's very recent. He's just come. এই সুবর্ণ সুযোগ. This is a golden opportunity. তিনি সাক্ষাৎ ভগবান. He is God himself. তাঁরই চরণ তলে বেদ বেদান্ত পড়ে রয়েছে. Your Vedas and Vedanta, all of this are scattered at his feet. They are all lying at his feet. তাঁকে ধরলে এখনই এইসব জ্ঞান পাবে. If you hold on to him, all of this knowledge you are seeking, you will get it immediately. খুব তাড়াতাড়ি গন্তব্য স্থানে পৌঁছে যাবে. You will reach your goal very soon. নতুবা বড় দেরি হয়ে যাবে. অনেক দেরি হয়ে যাবে. Otherwise, it will take a very long time. A very, very long time. So this is a wonderful thing he said. It really is very touching. Notice, he says, you're right. Vedanta is the royal path. And it's an ancient path. And it's been there for ages and it will continue to be there, open to all of humanity. But there's a special opportunity now, the advent of an avatar. Catch hold of him, hold on to him. That means in thought, in devotion, keep him in your heart, and you study Vedanta. And he says, because it's a manifestation of God, or it's an avatar, all of what you are seeking, you will get it very soon. Otherwise, it will take a long time. And not a long time, not because, now I'm adding my own 2 bits, not because it's any fault of the Vedanta system itself. It's just that the Vedanta system, being the royal road, it comes with its toll tax. You have to, certain terms and conditions apply. So we have our feelings, and that's why it takes a long time. All right. So these are the 2 anecdotes I wanted to share about M. Now, Sri Ramakrishna has come to the great scholar and philanthropist and social reformer Vidyasagar, and they're talking about religion and spirituality. Sri Ramakrishna says, so Sri Ramakrishna, this is in page 101 at the bottom. Sri Ramakrishna's conversation now turned to the knowledge of Brahman. Master, Brahman is beyond Vidya and Avidya, knowledge and ignorance. It is beyond Maya, the illusion of duality. The world consists of the illusory duality of knowledge and ignorance. By the way, this page, about one and a half pages, it just sums up the entirety of non-dual Vedanta very powerfully. It's just a powerful summary of the central teachings. It contains knowledge and devotion. The world consists of illusory duality of knowledge and ignorance. It consists of knowledge and devotion, and also attachment to lust and gold, righteousness and unrighteousness, good and evil. But Brahman is unattached to these. Good and evil apply to the jiva, the individual soul, as do righteousness and unrighteousness. But Brahman is not at all affected by them. One man may read the Bhagavata by the light of a lamp, and another may commit a forgery by that very light, but the lamp is unaffected. The sun sheds its light on the wicked as well as on the virtuous. You may ask, how then can one explain misery and sin and unhappiness? The answer is that these apply only to the jiva. Brahman is unaffected by them. There is poison in a snake, but though others may die if bitten by it, the snake itself is not affected by the poison. What Brahman is cannot be described. All things in the world, the Vedas, the Puranas, the Tantras, the 6 systems of philosophy, have been defiled like food that has been touched by the tongue, for they have been read or uttered by the tongue. Only one thing has not been defiled in this way, and that is Brahman. No one has ever been able to say what Brahman is. Vidyasagar to his friends, oh, that is a remarkable statement. I have learned something new today. Master, a man had 2 sons. The father sent them to a preceptor to learn the knowledge of Brahman. After a few years, they returned from the preceptor's house and bowed low before their father. Wanting to measure the depth of their knowledge of Brahman, he first questioned the older of the 2 boys. My child, he said, you have studied all the scriptures. Now tell me, what is the nature of Brahman? The boy began to explain Brahman by reciting various texts from the Vedas. The father did not say anything. Then he asked the younger son the same question, but the boy remained silent and stood with eyes cast down. No word escaped his lips. The father was pleased and said to him, my child, you have understood a little of Brahman. What it is cannot be expressed in words. Men often think they have understood Brahman fully. Once an ant went to a hill of sugar. One grain filled its stomach. Taking another grain in its mouth, it started homeward. On its way, it thought, next time I shall carry home the whole hill. That is the way shallow minds think. They don't know that Brahman is beyond one's words and thought. However great a man may be, how much can he know of Brahman? Shukadeva and sages like him may have been big ants, but even they could carry at most 8 or 10 grains of sugar. As for what has been said in the Vedas and the Puranas, do you know what it is like? Suppose a man has seen the ocean and somebody asks him, well, what is the ocean like? The first man opens his mouth as wide as he can and says, what a sight, what tremendous waves and sounds. The description of Brahman in the sacred books is like that. It is said in the Vedas that Brahman is of the nature of bliss. It is Satchidananda. Shuka and other sages stood on the shore of this ocean of Brahman and saw and touched the water. According to one school of thought, they never plunged into it. Those who do cannot come back to this world again. So there's a lot to be going on with here. If you go back to the beginning of this portion, Brahman is beyond Vidya and Avidya, knowledge and ignorance. It is beyond Maya, the illusion of duality. So here clearly he's talking about non-dual Vedanta. Normally he would say Brahman and Maya are the same. Shiva and Shakti, Brahma, Maya act. But here he's saying Brahman is beyond Maya. Here by Maya he means the illusion of duality. So Brahman is beyond Vidya and Avidya, beyond knowledge and ignorance. Remember, knowledge and ignorance both pertain to the mind. It is the mind, in the mind that we have ignorance about something, and then we get knowledge about that. Both are in the mind. How it works is this way. Every ignorance and knowledge has a locus and an object. In Sanskrit, Vishaya and Ashraya. So locus means where is that ignorance or where is that knowledge? In whose mind? Obviously, knowledge and ignorance are in a mind. So in whose mind? And what is that ignorance about? What is that knowledge about? Vishaya and Ashraya. So I may be ignorant about, say, Latin or Greek. And so my ignorance, it's my ignorance. Ignorance is in the mind. And what is that ignorance about? Latin. So the locus or ashraya of that ignorance is in the mind, and the vishaya or the object of that ignorance is Latin. Now, how can I remove that ignorance? The locus and the object must match. So where there is ignorance, there knowledge must come. So since ignorance is there in my mind about Latin, and then the knowledge of Latin must come in my mind. It's not enough if the knowledge is there in the book or in the website or in the professor's mind. No, it must come into my mind. The locus where the ignorance is, there the knowledge must come. Where the darkness is, there the light must come. Otherwise, it will not dispel darkness. And then the knowledge must be about the same thing as ignorance. If my ignorance is about Latin, then the knowledge also must be about Latin. It's no use learning about German to remove my ignorance about Latin. So there's a point here. Where is the ignorance and what is this ignorance about? What are we talking about here? Not about Latin or German, but about ignorance of our real nature. Whose ignorance? My ignorance. Where is this ignorance? In my mind. So where should the knowledge come? It should come in my mind. It's not enough if my guru is enlightened or if somebody else gets enlightened. It will not remove my ignorance. So my ignorance will be removed only when I have knowledge. In my mind, knowledge must come. And ignorance and knowledge must be about the same thing. The ignorance is about myself, my real nature, about Brahman, and the knowledge also must be about myself, about my real nature or Brahman. Then only knowledge will remove ignorance. But both of them are in the mind. And the reality is beyond the mind. So what happens is knowledge removes ignorance, and then that knowledge reveals something beyond the mind. That knowledge is no longer required. It is that the thing which it reveals is self-luminous. Here is the difference between worldly knowledge and knowledge of Brahman. Why? Because in worldly knowledge, what we have learned in school, for example, it removed certain amount of ignorance, but we have to hold on to that knowledge. If that knowledge goes away, the ignorance also will come back again. It will sweep back again. If you don't know something and you work hard to learn that thing, take a tutorial or a class, then your ignorance is gone and you've got knowledge. But if you forget it again, then again ignorance has come back. So knowledge, because that thing which we are getting knowledge about does not reveal itself. It requires your activity and your knowledge to reveal it. Whereas the difference in this case is Brahman is self-luminous. For some reason, there is a covering of ignorance. And once that covering is removed, the removal of that covering is done by knowledge. But Brahman reveals itself. Once that is seen, the knowledge generated in the mind is of no further consequence. So this is putting it in a general way. Notice, we did this in the Vedanta Sara class. Those who attended the Vedanta Sara class, you'll see, after Brahma Jnana, after the arising of the Brahmakara Vritti, you realize I am Brahman. Now will it be the two things will remain? Brahman and knowledge of Brahman? No, only Brahman will remain. What will be your realization? I am a knower of Brahman, or I am Brahman? I am Brahman, not that I am a knower of Brahman. We will call you a knower of Brahman, but for you, from your own perspective, honestly speaking, your realization will be, I am, I was, I am, and I always will be Brahman. So this is a subtle point he's making. At other places, he has given the example of the two thorns. A thorn of ignorance has pricked my flesh. To remove that thorn, I take another thorn and pick out that thorn of ignorance. Now, will I keep the second thorn in my flesh? No, not necessary. I'll throw away both. And here he's talking about knowledge of Brahman or realization of Brahman. You take Brahma Jnana, the Brahmakara Vritti, which is a function of the mind, which will remove the ignorance in the mind. And after that, you don't depend on the Brahmakara Vritti to know that you are Brahman. Your being Brahman is self-luminous. It is shining forth with the luminosity of 1,000 suns. So this is a subtle point he's making here. He's just said, Brahman is beyond Vidya and Avidya, knowledge and ignorance. It is beyond Maya, the illusion of duality. Do you remember in the Vedanta Sara class? This is pure Vedanta Sara. In the Vedanta Sara class, we started the first important thing we learned was Brahman is the only reality. Vastu, this is Satchidanandam Brahma. So the reality is Brahman, one alone without a second, existence, consciousness, bliss, non-dual. Vastu Satchidanandam Advayam Brahma. And then Maya downwards, Ajnanadi Sakala Jada Samuha, Avastu is an appearance. From Maya downwards means from Maya and all the products of Maya. What are the products of Maya? The 5 subtle elements and all the things that are made of those 5 elements. Remember, the mind and the prana, the subtle bodies, all of that. Then the gross elements, 5 gross elements, and all the physical universe and our bodies and everything made of that. All of those are appearances. And the reality is Brahman behind these appearances, like the magician and his magic. Then next he says, the world consists of the illusory. So what is this world then? What we are seeing right now? He says it's the illusory duality of knowledge and ignorance. It's a play of knowledge and ignorance. Now here in knowledge and ignorance, he means not in just an epistemological sense. He means it in a spiritual sense. There is this whole side of life which he characterizes as avidya or ignorance. What is that? The pursuit of limited things, of trying to get unlimited satisfaction from limited things. I'm using Upanishadic language. To get unlimited satisfaction from the effects of karma. And the conclusion we will come to is, the infinite is not available through finite means. Nastya krita kritena. This is Upanishadic language. Krita means produced. The unproduced infinite cannot be attained by the produced effects of karma. However much you do good things, however much one does evil things, all of that is exhausted in the end. Do a lot of good things, have a pleasant life here, go to heaven and enjoy heaven for a long time, it comes to an end. The party comes to an end. A person is unfortunate and unwise and does evil deeds, and the law of karma grinds him down and he falls into suffering and unhappiness. And after death goes to nasty places, where there is a variety of hells available. That also comes to an end. When through suffering, bad karma is exhausted, the immortal soul does not die, not even in hell, and it comes back again. So through this whole cycle of birth and death, and propelled by desire. The cycle of birth and death is propelled by karma, by our deeds, good and bad. And this karma is propelled by desire. Desire means by attaining certain things in this world, I shall get lasting peace, satisfaction, fulfillment, and it will be done. It could be toys when we were a kid, or friends when we were teenagers, or good degree and a job and success, and then whether it's marriage, children, grandchildren, politics, power, awards, or I'm going higher, like art and the appreciation of the beauty of nature, creativity, or even higher, doing good to others. All of these are good things, but none of them ultimately will fill your tummy, because your tummy is infinite. Oh, I read a nice quip somewhere. It must be the internet. Internet is full of these smart quips. This was two interesting quips. It says that always seek the approval of others. Keep on seeking the approval of others, so that by this your capacity for the space for filling with approval, it will increase. You will keep on feeling more need for more approval. The capacity for seeking the approval of others, your hunger will keep on increasing. And one more, I didn't get that right completely. The other one was, but it's very Vedantic quips. The other one was that eat healthy, exercise, be careful when you do these things, because surely you will live longer, but you'll have a longer old age. Think twice about it before you. And it evoked something I had heard from a doctor back in India. He said, Swami, with our modern medical technology, we can sort of assure you that, not guarantee, nobody can guarantee, can assure you that we can cure most things and you will live longer, but we can't assure you that you will live better. You live longer, but we can't assure you of the quality of your life. Another beautiful quote I got from a Tibetan Buddhist, very interesting. It matches something which is there in an ancient Sanskrit saying, Nasa munir yasya matam na bhinnam. It's a well-known Sanskrit saying. He is not a sage, a philosopher, who does not have a different opinion. So every philosopher has a different opinion. He is not a philosopher who does not have a different opinion. Now, the Tibetan quote, which is very similar to this, which I read, was that if two philosophers agree, one of them is not a philosopher. If two saints disagree, one of them is not a saint. Then, very nicely put. So, the philosopher has to have an opinion, different opinion. Otherwise, what kind of philosopher you are? And a saint is beyond that. It's all inclusive and understands things from different perspectives, and it includes everything. Then the interesting conclusion is, so what about the saint philosopher, what we might call the jnani, the path of knowledge? So there, the Tibetan source, it gives a very interesting insight. He says, ultimately, the saint is right. They're all talking about the same reality. They are the enlightened ones. But the philosopher also has a role. The philosopher keeps on, the craft of the philosopher, spiritual philosopher, is to keep on perfecting the expression of that ultimate truth, which is, as Sri Ramakrishna says, it is beyond all expression. So how to express it so that it will help those who are seeking enlightenment best? That's a very interesting thing. The philosophers will always disagree. Otherwise, you're not a philosopher. Saints will always agree, because ultimately they see the truth and they know it's the same truth. But the saint philosopher, knowing that it is the same truth, will keep on still perfecting the expressions, arguments, methods, so that those who are seeking enlightenment, their work, their path becomes easier. That's why you have a variety of teachings, variety of methods. Very beautiful insight, I thought. Then, so Sri Ramakrishna, when he talks about knowledge and ignorance here, the entirety of what we call our worldly life, and that includes life after death, heavenly life or hellish life. This world, heaven, hell, all of it together, what is considered the cycle of birth and death, propelled by karma, good and bad karma. And that karma is propelled by desire, trying to get infinite satisfaction from finite means. Now, if you put it in that way, you'll say it's impossible. You cannot get infinite satisfaction from finite means. But nobody thinks of it that way. People do sort of feel that if I do these things, if I get these things, I will be happy. We say, I don't ask for much, just $1 million and a nice mansion, a latest car, and people should be nice to me. All of this put together, this is what I'm asking for. Even that, if one gets, many people have got those. Has it satisfied them? No. So it is propelled by desire. And why does this desire come? It comes from ignorance. Ignorance of our real nature as already fulfilled, ever fulfilled, infinite. So this entire realm is called the realm of avidya. This is what Sri Ramakrishna calls avidya maya. But luckily for us, the good news is Maya has another side, which he calls vidya maya. The presence of incarnations and great prophets and great teachers of humanity who have taught a much higher way of living, quite contrary to the mad pursuit of external satisfaction, that the real satisfaction is possible through spirituality. It could be a God-oriented spirituality or a seek within your true nature. Both lead to the same thing. In various ways, various methods, various language, stories, the teachings have been given. That is Vidya Maya. That is the practice of simplicity, self-control, non-violence, of holding on to the truth, of discipline. So all of that, and the devotion to God, the discernment of what is infinite and what is not finite, what is not infinite, infinite and the finite. All of these things, they come under the realm of what Sri Ramakrishna is here calling the realm of knowledge, or Vidya Maya. Both are within Maya. Brahman itself is beyond Maya. So one is a tragedy, other one is a comedy, but both are movies. And once one has enough of weeping and wailing and suffering, one wants to come out of it. And then the teaching will help us. The realm of ignorance, avidya maya, keeps us whirling around in the cycle of birth and death, in leading an unfulfilled life, in unhappiness. When we have had enough of that, we seek a better path. Then we come to the realm of Vidya Maya. And once we come to the realm of Vidya Maya, in short order, it does not take long. Maybe at what, if you struggle too much and you are not a good candidate, it might take a few lives. If you cooperate with the path, it will be done in one life, and you are set free from it, and you realize what you always were. So this is Vidya Maya and Avidya Maya. Both are within Maya. Righteousness and unrighteousness, good and evil. But Brahman is unattached to these. Good and evil apply to the jiva, the individual soul, as do righteousness and unrighteousness. But Brahman is not at all affected by them. One man may read the Bhagavata by the light of a lamp, and another may commit forgery by that very light. But the lamp is unaffected. The sun sheds its light on the wicked as well as on the virtuous, by the same consciousness. So good and bad are in the mind, not in consciousness. I remember last year we were having this discussion. Very bright young man at Harvard. It was a class on theologies. After that, one young man asked me, "See, I don't appreciate Vedanta. How can Mother Teresa and Adolf Hitler be the same? So how can a saint and a monster be the same?" But the saintliness of the saint and the monstrosity of the monster are in the mind. There is a deeper level than the mind. See, even in theistic religions, redemption would not be possible if the mind were the ultimate reality. If a monster is a monster and forever a monster, there's no question of redemption and saving and So if you look at it in these terms of consciousness and mind, where is the monstrosity of Adolf Hitler? In the mind. I asked him, when Mother Teresa and Adolf Hitler go to deep sleep, is she a saint and is he a monster? Potentially, yes. The moment one wakes up, one will do saintly things, other one wakes up, will do monstrous things. But at that moment, no. If they're in coma or in deep sleep. When they were little children, when they were little children, 2 years old, 3 years old, babies or toddlers, was one a monster? Was the other a saint? No. These are qualities which are cultivated over time. And certainly one must cultivate the qualities of a saint. That's the Vidya Maya. The qualities of being a monster are Avidya Maya. But beyond them, in each of us, our real nature is untouched. And that is Brahman. Swami Vivekananda, I've often quoted it, but this is very perfect for the occasion. Good, good, bad, bad, and none escape the law. Good, good, good karma leads to happiness. Bad, bad, bad karma leads to unhappiness. None escape the law. Swami Vivekananda is very clear. None escape the law. He accepts the law of karma. Whosoever wears a form wears the chain too. Whosoever wears a form means who is having a body mind will have a chain. What is the chain? The chain of cause and effect stretching back to a beginningless time, which has produced that particular body mind at that particular instant. So whosoever wears a form will have to wear the chain too. This is exactly what Sri Ramakrishna said. Good and evil apply to the jiva. Wearing the form means what? I am Brahman, I am infinite, I am not a jiva. The moment I say I've worn a form, I have forgotten my Brahman nature. And now I limit myself to this body and mind. With this body, I am the doer. With this mind, I am the experiencer. I am the karta with the body and the bhokta with the mind. Karta, bhokta. Of course, mind is necessary for being a karta. So body mind makes me a doer and an experiencer. So when I do things, clearly knowing myself to be the doer, who will get the results of doing things? Action will have a result. When I do things, the results will come to me. And then I'm trapped in that cycle. And this is the jiva, wearing a form. Then Sri Ramakrishna says, Brahman is not at all affected. And what did Swami Vivekananda say? Whosoever wears a form wears the chain too, but far beyond name and form is Atman ever free. Know thou art that sannyasi bold. Say Om Tat Sat Om. That is the essence of the path of Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta. Right now, if you could say that, if you could see that, say that, hold on to it, you're free. And then he says, by the light of a lamp, you may read scriptures. That is the path of Vidya Maya. By the light of the same lamp, one may do forgery. That is the path of Avidya Maya. Of course, the lamp is unaffected. What's the lamp? Pure consciousness, what we are. By that alone, we see, hear, smell, taste, touch. By that alone, we walk and talk and do the good and bad things. And then he says, how can you explain misery and sin and unhappiness? These apply only to the jiva. But all of this is created by Maya, good and bad. So how do you see? And Maya is in Brahman. How are you saying Brahman is not affected by all of this? His answer is very beautiful. He says, here's the snake example. The snake has the poison in its mouth. And with a tiny bit of that poison, it knocks out its prey, a frog or a mouse or something. But all the poison is in the mouth of the snake. It does not affect the snake. Similarly, not that God is a snake, but it is God's power, the power, the Shakti of Brahman, which controls and creates this entire universe. And with a tiny bit of that, we are knocked out like a little mouse. But the serpent, or the power, the reality behind this power, which is God or Saguna Brahman or Ishvara, is not at all affected by it. So in Vedanta Sara, we have studied this also. See how Vedanta Sara gives a new light to all of these things. That Vedanta Sara says that Brahman is Mayadhisha. We are Mayadhina. Brahman, Saguna Brahman, is the Lord of Maya. And we are under the dominion, the spell of Maya. And the really radical thing about Advaita Vedanta is that It says, you, the one who considers yourself under to be this little mouse, this knocked out by Maya. You are under the dominion of Maya. You are none other than the Lord of Maya, Brahman. This is the amazing thing. Tattvamasi, that thou art. You have to realize that. So we become interested. Then what is that Brahman? About the world, we can describe it. Science describes it. Religion also in its own fashion, in a mythological fashion, it describes it. We understand this world through art and so in so many ways. But now you're talking about something beyond this world, Brahman. Can you tell me about that? And Sri Ramakrishna says, no, you can't talk about it. Language and thought are meant for this world. He says, but Brahman cannot be described. All things in the world, the Vedas, the Puranas, the Tantras, 6 systems of philosophy. So these are the orthodox systems. The Sankhya, Yoga, Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Purva Mimamsa, and Uttara Mimamsa. Uttara Mimamsa is what we call Vedanta. There are also another way of classification, 12 systems. So the 6 heterodox systems, that means Nastika in traditional terms. Charvaka, the materialists. There are many schools of materialists. It's just an umbrella term for materialism. And then there is the Jaina system. And then the 4 traditional schools of Buddhism. Sautrantika, Vaibhasika, Yogachara, Vijnanavada, and Madhyamaka, Shunyavada. This is one way of classifying all of this. There are other ways also, but this is sort of a common way of referring to different systems of Indian thought. And he says here, all of them, they have been defiled. So he uses a play on words. The word is eto. There are cognate words in most Indian languages. In Hindi you say jhuta. When you touch something with some food, you touch it with your mouth, or you're eating with your hands. And what you have touched with your hands, so that you cannot give to another person. So that is said to be defiled, let us put it this way. But the tongue is also used in speaking, not just in tasting. So what you have spoken about, what has already been spoken about, is also defiled. Only thing that has not been spoken about is Brahman. But if you have succeeded in speaking about it, if the project of speaking about it is successful, then it has been defiled. It is limited. They say that, I remember once I was going to give a talk in Calcutta, and the topic was, Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma, the definition of Brahman in the Upanishads. And on the way, I saw a quote written on the wall. There's wall writing in many parts of Calcutta. So it was, strangely enough, a quote from a saint. It says, a God defined is no God. And I was on my way to define God. But of course, you must understand, this is a subtle point. So when Vedanta tries to speak about God, or speak about the ultimate reality, after all, what else can poor Vedanta do? Vedanta is texts. Texts are made of words, language. So you have to express the ultimate reality in language. How do you do it? So there's a whole technology which has been evolved. If you cannot speak about it, what do you do? Yet you have to speak about it. Then what do you do? So there are different ways of doing it. One is you cannot say what it is, but you can say what it is not. You can't say what the ultimate reality is, but you can speak of it in, this is called in Latin, via negativa, the apophatic method. That is, you speak in negative terms, neti neti. You can say, it is not this world, it is not this body, it is not these thoughts. Neti neti, that's one way of indicating. But how will we know? You have to grasp it. There's no other way. By this process of negative, this neti neti, it will take you to a point if you follow it carefully. That neti neti also people don't follow. They just say neti neti, but they don't know what it's meant. What is meant by that? You have to follow it you have to track it in your own experience till you come to a point where nothing further can be said. You have to make the jump and grasp it by yourself. Shankaracharya actually shows the problem with this. He says in one of the commentaries, I think Aitiriya Upanishad commentary, he gives a funny story. He says a man was sitting very sadly. He had been scolded by his guru. His guru said, you are not a human being. Amanushyatvam, you're not human. Like maybe the poor guy was so stupid or something, the guru was very annoyed with him. You're not human. Amanushyattvam in Sanskrit, Amanushyattvam. So you're sitting very sadly and depressed because his guru had scolded him. Then a wise man happens to pass by and said, my friend, what's wrong? He said, oh, my guru said, I'm not a human being. Then the wise man tried to convince him, oh, your guru must have scolded you. It doesn't really mean that you're not a human being. No, my guru said it, so it has to be true. I'm not a human being. Then the man said, if you're not a human being, what are you? Oh, I don't know. Then the man asked him, well, are you a stone? Well, no, I'm not a stone. I'm not that. Are you an insect? I'm not that. Are you a bird or a lizard? No, not that, not that. Any of the animals which are passing by? None of that. Are you the sky or the earth or the wind? No, I'm not that. And in this way, they exhaust everything in this universe except human beings. And they say all of these, he says, no, I'm not that, I'm not that, I'm not that. So Amanushya, the category of not human, you have now understood none of those things I am. Not human, none of those things I am. Then what are you? If anybody with logic would say that the whole universe divides into two things, human, not human, then if I'm not human, that not human category, I'm not it at all. I'm none of those things included in the category of not human. It implies that I am human. What else could there be? If other than human, everything is exhausted and I see very clearly I am none of those things, I should catch it. What am I? At that point, Shankaracharya says, if the man still asks, oh, the inhuman, non-human things, I am not, I have understood that. Then what am I? If he still asks that, there's no help for him. Of course, in the case of human, non-human, one can tell you are a human being. But in the case of Brahman, you can't tell because it has to be caught. Every possible thing you exhaust. Try to ask, who am I? And please give your answers. You give your answers to the teacher. Who am I? Material being, organic being, physical thing, vital processes, life, mental processes, intellect, intelligence. What am I of all of these things? The reflected consciousness in the mind. And the teacher will show me I cannot be any of these things. Then what am I? You have to catch it. If you don't, as Shankaracharya says, we cannot be of any help. You have to keep trying. So it cannot be expressed in language. When Vedanta tries to express it in language, one method is the not this method. Other methods are there. Is the language of paradox, greater than the greatest, smaller than the smallest, further than the furthest, nearer than the nearest. It moves without moving. So what does it mean? It has a distinct meaning. You have to catch it. Paradoxical language. Who sees action in inaction and inaction in action? That is the one who truly sees. For whom what is daytime for all living beings is nighttime. What is nighttime for him is daytime for all living beings. What is daytime for him is night for all living beings. So is he an owl? No. What is being meant there? So the paradoxical language, that's another technique. Implied meaning, which we did in Vedanta Sara, Lakshana. If you remember, those who have attended, Jahad, Ajad Lakshana, Bhaga, Tyaga Lakshana. That's a technical way of pointing to that. All of these are methods of pointing to that reality. A wonderful technology has been developed since ancient times of pointing to something which cannot be expressed directly. That's why there's a saying about the Vedas. They say, Paroksha Priya Hi Devaha. The gods love indirect expression, elliptical expression, not outright. Whatever can be said outright is the world. But there is something of extraordinary importance which cannot be said outright. It can only be indicated, and you have to catch it. All the masters spoke in a language like this, simple language, not very philosophical, not very technical, but yet they spoke in parables, in little stories, and so that you are supposed to get the meaning out of it yourself. You catch it. Then, so one thing has not been touched by the tongue, and that is Brahman, and yet it has been expressed by the Upanishads indirectly. You say, but you're saying Brahman, Atman, that, Tat, infinite, Satchidananda, existence, consciousness, bliss. But yes, what do those words mean? If I say book, this is what it means. It's a book. If I say cloth, this is what it means, cloth. If I say thought, I can't show you what a thought is, but we all agree what a thought is. If I say absolute existence, Sat, what are you talking about? So only the one who knows understands. The rest of us are trying. All right, let me just see the activity in the chat. Gita Dev says, I too had read about Thakur taking Nirmala every day in Swami Chaitananda's book Divine Play and had forgotten about this fact. Yes. Sudhirji says, this whole universe is object for me, but not Brahman, as it is subject. But when I see other conscious people, isn't it that their consciousness is object for me? So what do you think? These are questions I will give outsource to you now. You've done enough Vedanta Sar. Would anybody want to volunteer an answer? Here I can see 58, 57 people. I'm wondering who is the 58th one. So there are 57 people. Is it true that your consciousness is an object to me? No. We know that they are conscious, but their consciousness is not an object to. Object means what you can experience directly. What can you experience directly? You can see their forms. You can hear their words. You can watch their behavior. You can read their language. But the way you are perceiving your own thoughts internally, can you directly perceive their thoughts? Even that, those thoughts are objects. The one which is perceiving the thoughts is consciousness. Consciousness is never an object. When you say other conscious beings, you are aware of their bodies, their behavior, their language. And if you have telepathy or a yogi, you are maybe aware of their thoughts also, but you can never be aware of their consciousness, because consciousness is not an object. And yet we know they are conscious. How do we know that other people have, in fact, how do we know that other people have minds? We can't see the mind. This is a big topic in philosophy. Other minds. If you look it up, philosophy textbooks will have a whole section. Other minds. How do we know that other things have? This will become an important subject, because now with the arising of artificial intelligence, do computers have minds? Because they're exhibiting all the behavior of intelligent beings. They are exhibiting memory, recognition, decision making, even creativity. We've got a whole book on computers writing poems, composing artwork and music, good quality. So do they have minds? These are all signs of minds. So how do we know other people have minds? Other minds is a big philosophical problem. And consciousness is beyond that. Consciousness is not an object. And yet for us, it's most evident. But where is it most evident? In our own case. We are aware, there's no doubt about it. But consciousness is not an object. And that, if you think about it, it is a subtle argument for consciousness being singular. If you cannot objectify it, it is not other than you. So you, the consciousness, in principle, if consciousness cannot be the object of your consciousness, then all consciousness must be one consciousness. Think about it. It's a subtle argument, but very interesting argument. Then Sangeeta says, is this exactly said in the same vein when Thakur says, oh mother, take my dharma, adharma, give me pure love for me, take thy virtue? Yes. Yes. Dharma, adharma. Dharma is vidya maya. Adharma is avidya maya. Then virtue and vice, that's dharma, dharma. Knowledge and ignorance is vidya maya, avidya maya. That pure love is the very nature of Brahman itself. But by the way out of Maya lies from avidya Maya to vidya Maya, then out. One cannot jump out from, say, a miserable, sinful, immoral life straight into enlightenment. One has to go through the wisdom of leading an ethical life. Abhijit says, when Sri Ramakrishna says Brahman is the only thing, only one thing, that has not been touched by the tongue, does he mean spoken or expressed in particular, or does he mean not touched by any perception, senses or thoughts in general? He means, of course, spoken, that's the direct expression, but also it means it cannot be thought about, it cannot be expressed, it cannot be seen. That is the definition, that is the indication of Brahman in the Upanishads. Adrishyam, agrahyam, alakshanam, alakshyam, and then achintyam, abhyapadeshyam. In Mandukya Upanishad 7th mantra, that which is not the object of any sense organ, it is not the object of any organ of action, it is not the object of the mind, it is not the object of speech. So all of this. Pravir Babu says, practically speaking, what does it mean seeing Brahman in everything? You're asking ultimate questions. What does it mean? You have to ask an enlightened person. An enlightened person can't say. Next, Sri Ramakrishna will give the example. To answer this question raised by Pravir Babu, he says, salt doll went to measure an ocean, and it was going to say how deep the ocean is. This is a question like that. If you want a true answer to it, it cannot be given. But if you want otherwise, just indications, our Upanishads and the Prakaran Granthas are full of it. How do you know, or what is it like to see Brahman in all beings? It is like, for example, again, Vedanta Sar, see how useful it is. We were studying about the Savikalpaka Samadhi in Nididhyasana. Remember what was the description? The description was that you see elephant made of clay. So you see the clay and you see the elephant also. So in the elephant and the horse, all those little statues made of clay, elephant and the horse and the man and the lion, you see it's elephant, horse, man and lion, but you also note that all of it is only clay. At the same time, you can see 10,000 waves in the ocean, but you're also seeing that it is all water. It's interesting. You're seeing that water, and you understand there are thousands of waves there. You're looking at the furniture, tables and chairs. You're at the same time, you are seeing that it is all wood. Similarly, we see that it is all Brahman, and yet it does not mean that the distinctions of name and form have disappeared. You can still distinguish one person from another. You can distinguish food and water, items of, like your own, this body from the other body. You can clearly perceive different thoughts. Everything that an ordinary human being can do, the enlightened one can do, in fact, better probably. And yet, the enlightened one is aware that all of these are appearances on one background reality, which is Brahman, and which is his own reality. He's that reality. Yeah. Kiran?
Namaste, Swamiji. So we have a tendency to label everything that appears to us, and Brahman is beyond, language. So does it help if we, try to stop that habit of labeling things, whatever appears in our awareness? Does it help to bring us closer?
You cannot stop it. The moment you have a form, the mind will give a label, and you cannot avoid the forms. The moment you see, the moment your eyes are open, your ears are open, and you have sights and sounds and all of these inputs coming from the world, the moment you are seeing differences between people, between up and down, between rice and dal, all these differences we are seeing, and you are helplessly will see them, because the mind, that is how the sense organs work, and the mind will keep on giving labels to them. Because Namarupa is inevitable when we see the world. You cannot see the world, experience the world, and not give labels to it. It will not, and you don't have to go down that way. You have to see the underlying reality as existence, consciousness, bliss, as shown in the Vedantic teachings. So in Aparokshanubhuti and other places, as it has been shown, and continue to see names and forms. We will see how Jivan Mukti is described in a couple of classes in Vedanta Sar, we'll see. So he says the Jivan Mukta enlightened one continues to see names and forms, continues to give labels. After coming back from Samadhi, Sri Ramakrishna knows the difference between Latu and Naren. He knows this is Vivekananda, this is Adbhuta, because at that time it was not Vivekananda, Narendranath, and this is Latu. But he also knows it is the Divine Mother alone who is appearing in these forms. So the emphasis should be that, yes, by labeling it, one can say that this is not a final thing. This is just a transactional thing I'm doing. The reality here is Brahman only. That much awareness, if one can maintain, it's a good practice. Or Rekha ji has asked, raised a hand. Yes.
Basically, the paradoxes that you cited, I've followed most of them, except the sleeping. When I'm sleeping, I also understand that Brahman is awake. You know, when the body mind is sleeping, Brahman is awake. But
Yeah.
how can the other way be possible? Because then I will temporarily cease to exist.
What is the other way?
No, when there are paradoxes, you talk about action, inaction, right? You talk about
I see what you're meeting. The day and night example.
Correct.
Yeah, that is from the Gita, from the Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah, but I mean, you mentioned that when you're sleeping, Brahman is awake, or rather, not that I'm sleeping.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So that bit I didn't understand, the waking and
Ya
sleeping.
nisha sarva bhutanam tasyam jagrati samyami yasmin jagrati bhutani sa nisha pashyato mune. So this is the verse from the Bhagavad Gita. What is darkness for all beings? The enlightened one is awake there.
Correct.
And that which all beings see as daytime is darkness for the enlightened being. So what does it mean? It does not mean this in the sense you are interpreting. I understand what you are saying. What it means is that which is darkness for all beings, Brahman, I am, existence, consciousness, bliss. Either people have no idea of such a thing, or they think it is theoretical, or they think, like most of us, it is there and we are trying to experience it, we are trying to perceive, we are trying to realize it. It is still darkness for us. We've just heard about it. For the enlightened one, it is daytime. It is effortlessly available that I am Brahman. Brahman is the only reality, inside, outside, everywhere. There's only one reality. So that is daytime for the enlightened person, effortlessly available, one's own Brahman nature. And what is daytime for all beings? Dharmartha kama. This running after little things in the world. This is the whole purpose of life. How can you not run after this? That is night for the sage, for the saint. It is darkness. It is meaningless for the saint. So this is the difference. What is most obvious for the worldly person? This is the world. This is real. This is what I must grasp. The world of avidya maya. That is darkness for the enlightened one. And what is day for the enlightened one? Brahman itself, or you can also even say Vidya Maya, the way to Brahman. The enlightened one will teach that and encourage us to follow that. And that is darkness for the worldly person. They will simply not come this way at all. It seems fantastic. It seems delusional to them. What God, what enlightenment, this is the only reality. It takes some time, lot of suffering, multiple COVIDs, multiple pandemics to to suffer and suffer. Not one lifetime. We have suffered over many lifetimes. Then only this little bit of awakening comes. Yes. Then the night sort of breaks and day breaks, and a ray of sunshine comes in the midst of darkness. So let us pray to the Lord that may that great dawn come into our lives in this very lifetime itself. May we be blessed and always be under the protection of the Lord. As M pointed out, hold on to God. I mean, this is a royal path, no doubt, Vedanta, Nirguna Brahman, the absolute reality. It's been there since ancient times, absolutely spread out before us, but we need help. We need help. So we hold on to the Lord, pleading, praying for his help, for his grace. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.